All right. So just a minute and we'll get started here. We've got a few people trickling in. But while we do, why don't I start with a few upcoming events. And first, a welcome to everybody that's joined us so far. We're going to have a great topic today for today's Power Hour. But upcoming events include our NAR Green Designation training. That's a 2-day free training course to learn green real estate practices, principles, and benefits. And that's on March 5th and 6th at Bridge AOR's Training Center, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's free. Remember, it's free to everybody, all our members, and registration details are on bridgeaor.org. There's a California RPA course coming up with the always entertaining Gov Hutchinson. That's on April 10th from 9 to 1 p.m. That will be virtual, and registration details are on bridgeaor.org. Please do take a look at that, sign up. Gov Hutchinson is always great, and there's always something new to familiarize yourself with regarding the RPA. On May 8th, we have an advanced negotiations class. Learn tools and information to understand fundamentals of negotiation, and it's taught by C.A.R. State Director Curtis Doss. That's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. again on May 8th, and that's going to be virtual as well. And you can get all of the registration details for these events and all other upcoming events at bridgeaor.org. Now, without further ado, let's get started with our speaker today that's going to give you our 2024 industry update and a year to come. 2024 C.A.R. President Melanie Barker. And before I hand it over to Melanie, let's just introduce her a little bit more and tell you a little bit about her. She's a Yosemite realtor, and before she was installed as the 2024 president of the California Association of Realtors, she's been involved at state level C.A.R. leadership since 2007. She's served on numerous committees in various capacities, including executive, legislative, federal, and strategic planning and finance committees. And most recently, she was a liaison to the Public Policy Committee. Of course, she served as president-elect in 2023. And at the national level, she has been active with the National Association of Realtors Board of Directors since 2012. She serves as its Federal Finance Housing Policy Chair, or she has in 2021. She's a member of NAR's President Circle, and in 2021 was inducted into NAR's RPAC Hall of Fame. She has served on the Women's Council of Realtors, California, and was twice named Realtor of the Year in 2006 and 2019. She is a co-owner of Summit Real Estate, a sales and property management company in Oakhurst, California. And along with her mother there, she serves her community well. And not to forget, President Melanie Barker is a U.S. Navy veteran, where she served as a quartermaster handling the ship's navigation duties. Service is something that comes naturally to her. So with that being said, President Barker, the stage is yours.
I remembered to unmute myself before I tried to speak, so I think that's a win for the day, right? Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting me into your screen today, if you will. Might be your living room, it might be your office, or wherever you are kind of zooming in from. Thanks for being with us today. If you attended the State Association meetings in Monterey, I probably don't have a lot more to highlight, except maybe you missed something along the way, and we'll talk a little bit about what that is. So we have the presentation before you, but I also have the presentation kind of off to the side here for some notes. So if I'm not looking at the camera and it looks funny in the recording, sorry, we're going to try to manage our way through this one today. First and foremost, I think the number one thing that is on the top of everyone's mind is in the form of a small legal update, and starting with our, commission lawsuits and where we stand with that. So I don't know, Emily, are you guys advancing since I'm not co-host the slides?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So on the C.A.R. Commission lawsuits, there are 4 seller class actions cases that have been filed in the federal courts in California. C.A.R. is named as a defendant in 2 of those cases in the Central District, which is Gail Fierro and Patrick Thurber versus N.A.R. et al. And the newest one that was filed this week was Andrea Friedland versus Redfin Corp et al. In the Fierro case, the plaintiffs have sued several local associations of realtors in California, MLSs, and corporate brokerage defendants, in addition to NAR and C.A.R. In the Friedland case, the plaintiffs have named C.A.R., NAR, and Redfin. And for your benefit, C.A.R. has retained a highly experienced antitrust defense team. And we are prepared to present our arguments in court as to why we believe that we do things differently here in California and that we should not be named. So these all stemmed out of the October 31st decision in the Sitzer case in Missouri. And since that time, many copycat lawsuits have been filed across the country. And these are the 4 that we know about in California right now and the ones that we're named in. So because of the nature of the stage that we're in now, I'm not really able to share a whole lot extra around the commission lawsuits. And because everything we have is in discovery phase. So there's not, like I said, a lot I can do, except I can say, you guys, as practitioners, make sure you know the buyer representation agreement, make sure you're using it and having a conversation with both sellers and buyers around the compensation piece and how you're paid, and that you're really open about that. Talk about your value proposition. We have resources and tools available on smartzone.car.org that Ivan talks about the 100 and some odd things that we do in a transaction. And make sure that you're looking at that and you're already doing a great job by even attending this meeting, because that means you're interested in staying abreast of what's going on in our profession and industry. So thanks for being here again. And if there's anything I can do, obviously, please feel free to reach out. Let's see, we also have some within the legal update, we have some new laws to highlight. We've got a revised NHD statement, and that was a C.A.R. sponsored legislation. And it's now going to specifically identify if a property is in either a high or very high fire zone area, and whether or not it's subject to fire hardening and defensible space requirements. So I actually live in one of those areas, as you can imagine, living outside Yosemite National Park. And so this is something that we are well aware of in my area. And I'm also well aware of the insurance issues as well. And we are diligently working on that with the Department of Insurance and the commissioner. So our listing agreements, you may have heard that there was letters and the kind of mailers and contracts being signed that was essentially making it in perpetuity. And they seem to be primarily targeting some of our older population. So if somebody owned a property, most of the time that I saw was that if somebody owned a property free and clear, they were getting these letters that said, hey, we'll give you X dollars if you agree to list your property with us, and there was no end date. And of course, that's not serving the consumer at all. And we put forward this legislation that would make that a little more fair, if you will. So we have 24 months is the cap for the initial listing, and then it's capped at 12 months. And those renewals, so you can't just renew it automatically either, right? You need to have a conversation. And no listing agreements can be recorded against the property, which has happened previously with those agreements that had been in place. So what we don't know is whether or not the law will override those existing agreements. That may need to be tested in court. And as we know more about that, obviously we'll continue to share that with you. Small claims courts limits have been increased from 10,000 individual to 12.5, and for business entities from 5,000 to, well, there's a typo in there. It should be 6,250. So, and then moving on to a little bit about revised forms and some of those highlights. There's the new is a buyer homeowners insurance advisory. If you have done an RPA recently, you're going to see that it's automatically included in there and talking about the importance of insurance. And that came about because there was concern that in market areas, and I think you guys are in a market area like this, where buyers are removing all of their contingencies just to compete, only to find out that they can't get insurance, or insurance is cost prohibitive and they're losing their earnest money deposits, quite frankly, right? Because they released all their contingencies up front. So that's really reinforcing the fact that insurance is incredibly important. And if they have a loan, they're going to have it. And for them to understand that that's something they shouldn't be waiving necessarily. We also have a revised seller replacement property, and this gives an opportunity for sellers to provide the proof that they have entered into a contract and to notify the buyer of if the replacement property falls out of escrow. We also have, I think you guys are have some interesting rent control laws above and beyond what is happening at the state. But even so, we have a revised TOPA, tenant occupied property addendum. So when tenants vacate prior to closing, sellers must disclose to the buyers the circumstances, of the termination. So basically, I think it's the idea behind it is if there was damage or if there was a reason that the tenants were not staying in place. So that's what we have on that right there. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I stand corrected on TOPA. That was making sure that the seller didn't wrongfully terminate with the tenant and then putting future liability on the buyer or the owner of the property. So there you go. That's what it's about. And our favorite, at least it's one of my favorites, I'm geeky when it comes to this stuff, and that's our on the legislative side and a little bit about what we have going on there. So as you can imagine, I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but it's an election year. And in an election year, it's not usually favorable to have sponsored legislation, but we are going to still do it in a couple of arenas. And here are two of those examples right now. And that is the AB 2717. This bill requires local housing elements including dynamic analysis of planned homeownership units to ensure that the local governments are adequately preparing and adopting a plan for the housing supply required to meet both current and projected housing demands across all types of housing. And so there are more than one way. There's more than one way to analyze a project or analyze costs. It's called static and dynamic. And so in this case, they're saying it's dynamic and it's across all housing types, not just apartment buildings or condos, but also, single family residences. Make sure that the housing element is really inclusive of all the types of housing that we really need in California. And then AB 2992, Nguyen, this bill mandates a real estate licensee to have a signed buyer broker agency agreement with a potential buyer effective January 2026. And the listing agent will have an obligation to provide the agency disclosure form to the seller. So as you can imagine, this has really been pushed along. It's been a conversation. I'll be honest, the buyer representation agreement, as far as whether or not to mandate it, has been a conversation for some time now. We had a task force on it a year and a half ago. And at the time they decided, well, let's not try to mandate it. Let's work on the education. Let's try to get resources out to our agents and our members so that they know how to use it more effectively. And then October 31st came and the Sitzer class action case was settled. And while NAR is appealing that and um, working on consolidating some of these class action suits, it's still very much in our early stages of appeal and things of that nature. We should have an answer around the consolidation piece in March. Anyway, so that meant that we had to get a little more serious about the buyer representation agreement and making sure that those conversations that are important around compensation and other duties and responsibilities as a buyer's agent are there in place for the consumer. So this is a consumer protection form essentially, and there's also a component of it that levels the playing field for our practitioners. So there are some brokerages that use it, there are some brokerages that don't use it. There are some brokerages that have said, sorry, I gotta send somebody to voicemail. Sorry, you guys. Okay. Gotta love my Mac being tied to my phone. Anyway, so it's to level the playing field where some brokerages have it implemented and mandated to for the agent to get their paycheck, get their commission check, and others don't. And so how do we make it so that, you know, everybody's kind of playing from the same handbook and this is how it is can be done. Now, I want to be clear that this is not, we're not mandating our form from the California Association of Realtors. We're mandating that a form be used. And we think that in practice, ours is a good form if you're a member. And that would be the form, of course, as a member, we would recommend you use. But this is, from a state standpoint, not going to look identical to what our form says. So I just want to be clear about that. As I mentioned a minute ago, it is an election year, and the things that I am going to ask of you guys that I ask of everybody and things I do myself. I didn't wear my pin today, sorry. But I do invest in our PAC, our Realtor Action Fund, or the Realtor Party of California, as we say. And while sometimes we don't always agree with individually or personally with some of the decisions that are made, I think generally speaking, particularly in this piece where we need to sponsor legislation and we need to do things that continue to protect private property rights, that we really do work really hard at it and are really mindful of that. And we are also mindful of working on legislation that is supportive of our agents and their ability to do business. And so it really is critical, and we're at a critical time where investing in the PAC is important. And so even if all it is $20, every dollar really does matter and really does count. And a lot of thought and time and effort is put into how decisions are made and how that money is spent. So that's the investment side of it. And then there's the acting side of it, and that is acting on red alerts when they come out. There's sometimes a piece of legislation that is really onerous and we need our input from our members, and we've done a really fantastic job. So for those of you that have responded to our red alerts and acted on them, I thank you for your participation because it's really critical and it has such impact. I remember there was one year where we literally collapsed the phone lines in the State House. And so that's how much of an impact we were able to have. And they definitely got the message. So, so thank you for that. And then of course, voting. And voting is really important. And, you know, what I tell people is, you know, I don't have a preference if you vote for the president. I don't have a preference if you vote for, you know, federal candidates. I do have a preference though when you vote for your local candidates and you vote for your local issues, and then you also vote as it might pertain to us in, you know, ballot propositions and things of that nature. And because your voice really does matter in those cases, right? Sometimes it comes down to a matter of a few votes in a local election. And you could have been the person that set it over the edge to help us support true realtor champions that understand our issues, because who you vote for locally will end up in the state house or will end up in Congress. And then if they're not effectively, if they don't understand our issues and they don't know who we are, we're spending more time educating them and less time having them be effective for us in the State House or in Congress. So please be mindful of that when you guys are supporting candidates locally and when you get out and vote, because your vote really does matter. So thank you for taking the time to do that. So speaking of voting, we do have some ballot initiatives. And I want to be clear, in the March ballot, and those of you that do the go ahead and do the mail-in ballot, you will have already seen that there is only one ballot proposition on, and that's Prop 1, and that was because the governor only wanted a single ballot initiative wanted a single initiative on the ballot this year and for the March election. So that was intentional. So what I'm about to talk about is really as it relates to what's coming up in November. So as soon as we get done with the March election, then all hell breaks loose in election time, right? So the ads are going to drop, and we're going to see who won our jungle primary, and then all of the new ballot initiatives are going to come out. And so these are ballot initiatives that we oppose. ACA 1, and it's local government financing, affordable housing, and public infrastructure voter approval. So basically, currently California requires a 2/3 voter approval on certain special tax increases and bond measures. This ballot measure aims to reduce the threshold for approving new special taxes and bonds for affordable housing and public infrastructure projects to 55%. Now, you would think, well, gosh, Mel, if we support housing initiatives and building and the things that we need in the affordable space, why would we oppose this? Well, we oppose it because that is taking a 2/3 vote down to 55%, which also means that it can open up the ability for this to be duplicated perhaps at the local level or other tax initiatives. And that really reduces that threshold. And next thing you know, you're going to see more and more, tax initiatives coming on. And that's just not something that we think is good. And it would also be a threat to Prop 13. And then ACA 13 were opposed. This measure, it's a constitutional amendment, and it suggests that if an initiative constitutional amendment includes provisions requiring a supermajority voter approval, such as 3/5 or 2/3, 4/5, then the initiative itself would need to secure the same supermajority of votes for the voters of California. And again, this would, if we would have needed to have that level of voter initiative, then we wouldn't even have Prop 13 today, because we just wouldn't get past that threshold. So that's those two. And then there is one that we do support. I'm sorry, there's one more we oppose and one we support. This one is the repeal of the Costa-Hawkins Rental Act. And this proposal seeks to revoke essentially Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act, enabling local governments to enforce stringent rent control measures on newer apartments and single-family homes, while also lifting the statewide ban on vacancy control. Pardon me for 1 second, you guys. I also have a cold. I apologize. So I know you guys are grappling in your area with already some of these rent control issues and overlays to what's happening around the state. And this, may not matter to you guys, but it does matter to a lot of other areas of California still. And so we are not going to support anything that's going to constitute the potential repeal of Costa-Hawkins. And so that's what this is about. It doesn't have a number yet, and when we have the number, we'll know that coming up for the November ballot. And then the other one on here, which is SCA 2, we actually support this, and we have for a long time. It's the Article 34 of the California Constitution. It currently grants veto power to the wealthy neighborhoods in the state, hindering the much needed housing, and has been perpetuating segregation. So this measure seeks to repeal Article 34 of the Constitution, which aims to legalize the construction of low-income and public housing in cities across the state. So that is what we have as far as the initiatives and what's coming up on the ballot. In case you don't know, we actually even have our own podcasts. And so if you guys are interested, we just released our latest episode of Unlocking California Politics podcast. And this is actually talking about Prop 1 that'll be on the ballot. And it's our Senior Vice President of Government Affairs, Sanjay Wagley. And he's joined by Jim DeBow, who is a strategic affairs and a manager of the Proposition 1 campaign. So they talk about how this is going to help homelessness and unhoused and what some of those priorities are. And so you can see that on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, or through our website. You can find it there. So go check that out. Now, I think you guys are kind of interested in what's going on in your housing market, or maybe you guys just already know that there's no inventory, you're multiple offers, and things are a challenging market again for our agents and members. So this is what California looks like as a snapshot, and that's we had 256,000. Wait, let me look about this. Oh, year over year. So we had 256,160 sales, and it's 5.9% year over year increase. Existing home sales is also 5.9%. So while we have had a gain in sales, it is still well below our kind of normal amount of 300,000 units that we would sell. And this is the 16th straight month where we're probably where we've stayed below the 300,000 threshold. Your median sales price is 788, 940. Your unsold inventory index is 3.2 months, and it's down year to year by 8.6%. And your median days on market is 32, and that's down 17.9% year to year. I mean, I think we all know 3 months of inventory is not much, 30 days on market, and probably dropping, as it shows here, pretty rapidly as we move into the spring market. So then we have, on our next slide, we have the sales by county in the Bay Area. And so you'll see the top one's darker, and then the bottom are other Bay areas, but this is specifically meant for you guys, but you do have the reference point of what's going on in your neighboring counties or in the greater Bay Area markets as well. So in Alameda, in January, 310 sales. In December, there was 467 sales. In January of 23, there was 347 sales. And your month over month change down 33.6% over year, down 10.7%. And then year to date, you're also down 10.7%. So that's again just Alameda County. This slide talks about your median price by county in the Bay Area, and your median price is over $1 million. In January of 23, it was $1,015,000. In January 24, it was 1.1 million. And then in December, it was even a little bit higher than where it is in January 24 at 1.175. So down, month over month. That doesn't make sense, I guess, but it's probably month over month from the year before. And then year over year, you're up 8.7%. So your new active listings by county, obviously, this was done in the last week, so this is probably potentially changed even since this was produced. So you had 662 active listings at the time this was done, and in December of 23 you had 684, and in January of 23 you had 630. So down a little bit, 32% or 3.2% month over month, and then up actually year over year. So, and then, so that this isn't always just super boring, grid graphics, here is a better graphic representation again of kind of the same information that we've been talking about. Your median price is 1.1 million. You had 310 sales, down 10.7%. Your active listings, 343, down 27.5. Your median days on market, as you can see, is different from what we saw in another slide. So that's 19 days on market. And then your sales price is sort of a percentage of list price is 100.8%. And the percentage of active listings that had reduced prices was 26.2%, and that was for January of 2024. And that's all of Alameda County, and now we'll break it down to a couple of your communities, Berkeley and Oakland. So starting with Berkeley, your median price is actually 1.28 million, and that's down 6.9%. And from last year, you had 22 home sales, and that was up 4.8% from last year. You had 21 active listings, and that was down a third, 32.3%. And median days on market is 33 days. Your sales to list price is 105.3% of the sales price. And that 14.3% is had a number of active listings with reduced prices. And then for Oakland, you had a median price of 725, down 3.3%. You had 89 home sales, which was up 1.1%. And you had 195 active listings, and that was flat. Your median days on market's 40, and your sales price to list price was 101%, 101.1%, and 31.3% of your active listings had reduced prices. Coming up very shortly, talk a little bit about some upcoming events we have sponsored by C.A.R. that we'd love to see you attend. The first one we have up is a property management conference, which is tomorrow. And if you don't get enough of me today, you get to see me tomorrow on this, because I do have a property management company as well as a sales company. So I'll be participating in that as president and as a practitioner. So that's kind of fun. It's $19 and it's on Zoom. So I think there's, for anybody that does property management, is interested in property management, this might be a good opportunity to kind of get a better feel for whether or not, first of all, it's the right fit, if you're doing some of the right things, and if you need to change some practices maybe. Next up, we have Fair Housing Day. Last year was, and that's in April, last year was our inaugural Fair Housing Day, and it was really fantastic. This year it's going to be in down in Ontario and California, not Canada, down, not up. And it was a really fantastic event last year for being an inaugural event. And we actually had people come to this event that have never attended a C.A.R. event or even a local association event before. So it was an awesome opportunity to talk to them about why it matters to be involved at the local association and to show up at meetings and participate with us. So I hope to see as many of you there as we can. And there's going to be a casino night there as well to help support our housing affordability fund. And I think I have some slides on that. I don't know. If not, we'll talk about it later. And then this was something that I used to love, and it got kind of sunset, and now we're bringing it back. And that's our Champions of Home, our Impact Awards. And it's basically celebrating the impact that all of you have in your communities, because we all do, many of us are involved in Rotary, or maybe a hospice organization, or I'm involved in our youth organization here. And so youth is one of my, supporting youth and their growth is a passion of mine. And so, we know that you guys have impact in your communities. And so we want to highlight that for a few people. And so one winner is going to receive $5,000 for their nonprofit. And the two honorees, up to two honorees, will get $1,000 each. And the nominations are open in 2 days. So March 1st, there's a QR code on the screen. So please scan that. And the nominations will close on April 15th. I believe we make the announcement at the spring meeting, but the whole thing is done at our meeting in the fall. So our conference meeting. And then next up we have one of my favorite things. I found it sound like everything I do is our favorite thing today. But anyway, this one really is one of my favorite things that we have. It's the Center for California Real Estate, and it's basically our think tank on really big problems and or opportunities that we have to solve, hopefully some like the housing crisis or, other things that are transpiring. And we team up with like UC Berkeley, Turner, sorry guys, their school related to the housing. We team up with other individuals around and think tanks as well around, like I said, some of these big issues. So this one's on AI and it's coming up on 3/19 and it's virtual. So scan it and participate. And it's really about, AI in real estate and what the prospects are for it and challenges and maybe what some of the future direction is going to look like and how AI could potentially impact how we do business. And so that's on the 19th from 10 to 11:30. And then this program is also a wonderful program. It's our Steps Towards Homeownership, and it's Steps to Financing the Dream of Homeownership, and that's on April 10th from 10 a.m. to 12:45. So register now. And you'll see when you do register, you'll see who is participating, but we talk about things like financial literacy. We talk about preparing clients for sustainable home ownership. We talk about lending and down payment assistance programs and try to help agents become educated to also remove some friction in the buy process. And maybe as a buyer's agent, you'll be able to understand these tools and educate the listing agent on it. And I know that cash tends to be king. And I hope we reach a point in time where that's just not the case, and that people really kind of start to take seriously these buyers that can afford to buy, even if they're using down payment assistance programs, and that we are able to get them into homes because it really does matter. And then one day I think that most people know about that we have coming up, and that is our legislative day in Sacramento. And that's on Wednesday, May 1st. And for those of you that don't know what it is about us going and talking about several key issues or hot topics that we talk about with our state legislature. It's great. We have this big conference facility, convention center in Sacramento, and we talk about the issues and we have guest speakers from either the Senate or from the House, and or sometimes we've had the governor speak to us. So it's really a lot of fun and a really great way to understand a lot more about our initiatives and what we do in our advocacy space. And then we have coming up in June, we have Woman Up. And if you haven't attended Woman Up conference, I highly recommend it. And it's not just for women, it's for, everybody that really supports women in the brokerage space and leadership and really just trying to understand how to be better practitioners and what it's like to lead as a woman. So I think that's really important and it's a lot of fun. So I hope to see you guys there. And then we have our final conference of the year. It's hard to believe that we're going to be talking about Long Beach already, and that'll be my last meeting as president. So weird to talk about it so early on in my presidency, but we are, and it's in Long Beach, and our registration for that is going to open up on April 23rd, and that is the reimagineexpo.org, and that's two E's at the end there in the email address, the website address. Next up, we have something that we've been doing since the COVID environment, and that is to keep our brokers informed. And broker initiatives are really important to us and to this leadership team and me personally as a broker, and really a broker of a small independent, making sure that I know that I'm at the top of my game and representing my clients the best of my ability and making sure my agents are as well. So we have this industry leader town hall, and it's part of our broker outreach efforts. And we meet virtually twice a month. And if you're a broker and interested, then there's that QR code and it will take you to a form to fill out so that we can verify that you are a broker, because we really are talking about a lot of broker issues, so that you can take that information back to your agents. So I hope to see some new faces on the next one coming up. And, no good presentation leaves behind member benefits. So let's talk about what C.A.R. has for our members. This is the member benefit guide is available online now. And so you can go to CAR.org and find it there. And so we have so many programs that it's really, it's really just too much for us to talk about here. But we are obviously, we have zip forms as our member benefit. Lion Desk is part of a member benefit package. We have transaction rescue with the forms tutor. Obviously, about the legal hotline, and we have down payment assistance programs that you can look into. So anyways, you guys, there's tons of things to your member benefit. So please do take a look at that. And this one here is, there you go. Good. I just want to give you, scan this QR code and it'll give you all of the benefits that you have. So there's 150 benefits of some sort, whether it's free or discounted, that are incorporated in your $231 state dues. So I think that's pretty incredible that we offer many of these benefits, and sometimes it's in partnership with local associations. But anyway, please make sure that you check it out, because as it says here, our mission really is your success and that of our agents out in the field. So please share this with the agents, and you will have lots of opportunity to check out those benefits for you guys. Now this is our impact report from 2023. So it's a retrospective. You can scan the QR code and you'll get this information as well. And basically, this is a quick highlight that last year we saved an average of $10,000 a member in our legislative actions and activities, 1.6 million uses of digital ink, AuthentiSign, and DocuSign for you guys to do your contracts. We had 72,000 legal opinions that attorneys gave when members called into the legal hotline. It's a lot, 72,000, you guys. That's a lot of legal hotline support. And then we had 14,000 take advantage of our 45 hours of CE. And while I'm at it, 2024 is a renewal year for the ethics training. And so you can get that free through C.A.R. also. So please take a look at that and know that you have support to take that ethics training for free. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Smart Zone CAR.org. And this is a microsite because we know full well that our website, CAR.org, can be challenging to navigate and find things on. And so we really want to be focused on, in this case, things that are going on in the industry, buyer agent resources, and then things around home ownership, homeowners insurance, and the guides available for that as well. So please do take a look at that. This is updated regularly so that we are staying current with the needs of our agents and practitioners out in the field. And of course, if you have any comments or feedback on it, we'd certainly love to hear from you. But that Smart Zone is CAR.org. And that concludes my presentation. So I can take some questions, perhaps. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to do that. And there are some that I may or may not be able to answer depending on what they are. And I'll do my